What's up, peeps? Right, I just thought I would show you what I've collected over the years: paints, wise, varnishes, brushes, things I use. It's all stuff I bought myself, so and been trial and error, I suppose, a bit of it, like everybody does at first when you first start collecting stuff. When I've got no real preference with paints. I think paints, it's what you do with them. To be fair, I mean, some are slightly better than others. Do you know what I mean? And things like that, and they're better for different jobs. So I think that's the main thing with them. It's like with us with the airbrushes. You get a range of stuff, and you develop slight preferences. But I really think a lot of the paints that you can buy pretty much fit for purpose, like depending on what you want to use them for. Like, I mean, I very rarely buy anything special for terrain. I'll use Dulux, I'll use craft paints, spray, just general spray paint. I use a lot of inks. I mean, it's just anything you can get. I mean, these are quite expensive, the Liquitex ones. It's a bit excessive, really, but you don't need them for terrain. I mean, I find the best fight for bulk terrain is Dulux. You can thin it down, put it through your airbrush. You've got great coverage. I mean, that's like £2, £3 a tin. Do you know what I mean? It's pretty good, and you can get whatever shades you want mixed up. So it's a pretty good paint, I find. As the dog says on the Dulux, it's all good shit, man. Do you know what I mean? I mean, varnishes, brushes, for example. I mean, I absolutely fucking destroy them. I've got a mix of stuff. I mean, I play the predominant to my brushes, the GW, because it's the closest shop I've got to get brushes since the art shop shut down. And because I destroy them at a horrendous rate, they're just easy to replace. Do you know what I mean? And I've got some Sable ones. Some Kolinsky Sable. They're not Kolinsky, well, they are Kolinsky Sable. But they're nice, but I'm not sure if I suit my paint style. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm a bit heavy-handed, like. And I use a lot of like thinner paint and stuff, and they're alright if you're using acrylics. Do you know what I mean? Like for glazing and like painting in a very watery stage, like watercolor, because they are watercolor brushes. But I think my stock brush still is a GW yellow. I've got hundreds of the little buggers. And what size is it? Fine detail brush GW. It's sheerly because it's the closest one I can get to. When I did, I was quite impressed with these when I first bought them, the AK Interactive brushes. I mean, I've destroyed them now, but for a synthetic brush, it took some abuse, like, and they're still going. You know what I mean? And I was quite surprised when I got those, so I do like the AK ones for a synthetic brush. You know what I mean? But as you can see, I'm not real. I don't really nurture them, I just get caned. I mean, things like varnish. I mean, at the moment, I'm using like a lot of acrylic Vallejo. I've got some tougher stuff like Glosscoat, Humbrol. I've got more varnishes of another Vallejo polyurethane gloss varnish. I've got a few different varnishes knocking around. But what I've started to do lately, especially with the acrylic varnishes, I'll mix them, because I find straight from the bottle that can be a bit too satin, or do you know what I mean? Especially the satin, it kind of mats everything out too much. So I find I'll mix these two together, and that allows you to experiment and get like a kind of finish you want. And I find them pretty good. But it's the same as any varnish, do you know what I mean? You're going to use a fucking lot of it, so you turn all the layers and stuff. So you wanna mess around and experiment with them, get the best thing. I mean, I still use for chipping. I've got some chipping fluid. There we go. Some AK chipping fluid, but I still tend to use it's way more than anything. It's just one of those. But I mean, I don't mind the chipping fluids. I think they're good. I mean, I've still got a lot of Games Workshop paints still knocking around. I still buy the new ones. And like, I know a lot of people hate the new ones. Like, well, they do what they say on the tin. You know what I mean? It's paint. You can use it. It's okay. And I've got some Game Colour. I didn't like them at first because they're quite watery, but I've got used to them now. I mean, just learning different painting techniques and different paints formulated for different ways to paint, so it's all good. I mean, I use a lot of Mr. Surfacer. I use a lot of acetone with that to finish. I use a lot of acetone for putting and for cleaning my airbrush and stuff. It's fucking lethal, right? But it's good. It does the job. Melts the shit out of everything. It's all good. And I've got various thinners. And I've got an acrylic thinner, House of Oxford. I buy that from a train shop, and I tend to use a lot of that because it's convenient for me to get. I like it, but I have used these as well. Immediate airbrush cleaner. I've finished it with that. I've used it to clean stuff. I'm not sure if it's finished stuff with it because it's marketed as a cleaner. I did. When I used that acrylic thinner, that was fine. And I've got the Tamiya thinner. Now, with the Tamiya thinner, I find that if you use this with some Vallejo paints to thin your tinges of jelly, it's brand specific, and I try and keep that. I keep that brand specific. I just use it with my Tamiya paints, which I absolutely love Tamiya paints. I use Tamiya paints for when I know I'm going to do something really aggressive to the model, like I've got some nice red hull base coats, and I'll just hit it with Tamiya because it can take much more abuse when you're weathering something, and the colour stays a lot truer than the acrylics. The acrylics have a tendency to dirt up quite quickly, so when you do like a lot of chipping and shit like that, so I like my Tamiya. Same goes in Mr. Hobby. I like them, but you'd think Mr. Hobby and Tamiya in a Chinese product would be quite similar for thinning. Not a chance. If you're going to use Mr. Hobby, you've got to have Mr. Hobby thinner, or use acetone. I've tried acetone before, thinking it was okay, but you got to buy the specific thinners. That's my best advice to you, because if you try and mix and match, sometimes your shit just disintegrate. The paint just goes like jelly. So I'd buy brand for brand, like, do you know what I mean? Which is what I think. I mean, I've used these little paints as well. Army painter, no problem with those. But I mean, the big thing at the moment is box sets like this, where you get old weathered wood or like acrylic paint set, and I like both these sets. I think the thing with a paint set is it's not necessarily a better paint. It's not necessarily going to make your paint any better, because there's still a lot of technique involved. It just gives you the convenience that you've got the tonal shades already pre-mixed, pre-made and pre-bottled. Do you know what I mean? So it's just, I think they're just convenient. I mean, I love the skin set. I don't mind the weathered wood. But what I find, say with this weathered wood, I'll be using this on a lot of terrain. Do you know what I mean? And the bottles just don't hack it. You can't do big terrain jobs with these. So what I've started to do with these, because I use a lot of like these daily and around the acrylic inks. I spray miniatures with them, I spray terrain with them, I spray everything with them. You just have to seal them in on the miniatures, and you lay it up so it doesn't reactivate with the paint. But once you've sealed them, they're fine. But on terrain, I use lots of this, and then I'll just pick out colours of this for highlights and stuff, so it doesn't just cane through your paint, which is a quite expensive paint. So you can kind of mix and match them. Do you know what I mean? You haven't got to just follow the instructions on the book and stuff, and you can have a play. Like, I mean, spray paint, I never buy any of the army painters sprays or Games Workshop sprays. I just go to the car shop, because you get a much bigger tin with a lot less money, and to be fair, I like it. I like the surface area on it better. I find some of the hobby primers that you can buy specific are a bit rough, and they just destroy your brushes when you're priming them. So I kind of, when you play scanning, so I kind of got over that. Like, I mean, pigments, like pigments, I've got loads of different pigments, loads of different effects and stuff, and washes from varying companies. Do you know what I mean? And to be fair, there's pigments, but probably a slight difference in the gradient of the pigment. Like, do you know what I mean? But with anything, the pigment's like another colour in it. So all the companies are generally kind of different colours. Do you know what I mean? So it's nice to have a bit of everything. Do you know what I mean? I've got no real favouritism on pigments. Like, do you know what I mean? I just pick up the one that I think's the best colour for the job. Like, and they usually do. When I used to use surgical spirits and stuff and things like that, but I find I like to mix my pigments with thinners. I mean, thinners is another thing. I use this model paints for the Perfectionist, enamel thinners. for my oils and my enamels and stuff, for my fine stuff when I want to use something real nice, like. But general bog standard washes and shit, man, I'm at the £1 a bottle stuff. Do you know what I mean? Because a train, I could use a couple of bottles of this, washing and blending things. So you're not going to want to use your £5 tin of like special, really clean finish. Do you know what I mean? You're going to want to use something disposable, like. And that's the kind of attitude I have to a lot of products. Like, I'm not. To do paints and brushes, I kind of look at things and think, well, do you know what I mean? You can, brushes especially, just buy a new one. Do you know what I mean? If it goes, I've got no real. I'm not really that precious over them. Since the brush is gone, you can use the brush barrel to make cutters and shapers, so it's not a waste, like. But anyway, this is probably the most products you're ever going to see on my channel all at once. So I don't really do product placement, but this is just showing you what kind of stuff I use and that. There's no, I don't, I mean, I'm not, as I said, I'm not an award-winning painter, so I'm not this, that, or the other, but I just think you can get wrapped up in the hype of branding sometimes, and if you look around, you can find cheaper substitutes. I mean, I don't recommend cheap oil paint. That's one thing I don't recommend. The oil separates, and it's not nice, so spend a bit of money on your oil paints, because it's just better. Do you know what I mean? You can see the difference. You buy a cheap pack and buy a Winsor and Newton and put them together, and you'll see the difference. I mean, you need water washes if you've got something that's less aggressive, but they don't work as well as oils, so I only use that if I know I've got something underneath that's very delicate that might disintegrate, so I use, if you use finish, I use a water wash. It's, as I says, it's one of those, it's personal preference, a lot of it. So, I mean, like decal fix, you don't need decal fix, you know what I mean? You can use varnish and stuff like that, so. It is all personal preference again, I think, with paints. And you'll learn a lot about, oh, the paints, this paint's better, that paint's better, which is an element to that too, but you're not going to get that hung up on it, are you? Like, if you can buy something that does the job, and it gets you there, I think that's the best attitude to paints and brushes. And as I says, variety, I think, is the spice of life. So, plenty of variety in your collection isn't going to hurt you, do you know what I mean? And instead of being like stuck to one brand all the time. Anyway, take care folks, and speak to you soon.